It's time to stretch your legs, folks, especially if you're a software engineer. Imagine paying 75 grand to undergo major surgery and gain a few inches of height. Sounds great or pretty surprising. In fact, software engineers from major tech firms, we're talking about all those tech giants like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta, got their wallets ready for the surgery. But why is this so important? Let's find out. First off, here's the surgery that's got everyone growing taller. As it turns out, a Las Vegas cosmetic surgeon, whose specialization lies in leg-lengthening procedures, came up with a surgery that can extend your height by 3 to even 6 inches. But here's the crazy part. Most of his patients are actually tech workers. Now, rewind to 2016, when Kevin Debaparshad founded LimbPlastX Institute. It took off pretty soon, but right up to the pandemic, the business started booming. With that said, let's take you in for a closer look at how the surgery works. To start off, the doctor will literally break the patient's femur or even thigh bones. And as painful as that sounds, the next step is inserting metal nails into them that, unlike our regular bones, can be adjusted easily. Moving on, the nails will be extended a tiny bit every day for at least 3 months with some sort of magnetic remote control. Now, it isn't as fast and simple as it sounds. Honestly, it can even take quite a few months to slowly lengthen the bones and for the legs to completely heal. We're messing with the bones after all. But there have been some great patient stories, like this one of a software engineer who spent the first 3 months alone in his apartment ordering delivery food while jumping from 5'6" to 5'7". Having said that, the procedure can be super expensive, costing anywhere from $70,000 to even $150,000. But again, that depends on how high you're shooting for, 3, 4, 5, or 6 inches. Following up, the stigma around plastic surgery for men is fading away. Now, if it wasn't already obvious, the common denominator of Debaparshad's client base is that they're super wealthy, but the profession can vary across different clients. In fact, he's treated a bunch of people, from CEOs and finance employees to actors and so on. And let's not forget the bevy of high-earning tech workers he's got for the procedure, although most of them are men, with just a few women. He even jokes around saying he could open a tech company, hinting at his loyal client base. He's got over 20 software engineers doing the procedure in Vegas right now, all of them working in huge tech firms like Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and Google. At the same time, if you're considering this procedure, here's a little warning from the surgeon himself. It turns out he doesn't recommend it for athletes because it's going to decrease their ability. So if you're into sports, it's best to stay away for now. But switching back to the stigma around plastic surgery for men, it's honestly started to fall away over the past few years. And if you want numbers, the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery says that cosmetic procedures performed on men went up 325% from 1997 to 2015. With that said, right within Silicon Valley, plastic surgery has pretty much become a way for male tech workers to reach their physical goals. In fact, the Washington Post from 2002 reported that men were starting to turn to Botox, laser treatments, fillers, and other techniques to stimulate collagen. Not to mention, some people are even borrowing money for the surgery. That's right, guys. A man borrowed the 75 grand for leg lengthening surgery to spike 3 inches in height, and he's going to keep paying it off with $1,200 monthly payments over the next 5 years. Well, that's just one of the cases that came forward. People are taking bank loans for the surgery to get what they thought was impossible. But here's the thing, they have zero regrets. If anything, they say it made their life better and was totally worth it. And we've all heard of such experiences along the way, where people are treated differently because of their height. It's sadly more common than we think. In many cases, it even goes to the extent of bullying. So when the same kids grow up to become adults who aren't happy with their heights, surgeries seem like they're the perfect way out. Now, cosmetic leg lengthening was originally an elective surgery to help patients with real medical conditions. But over time, it's become a more common cosmetic surgery where people are willing to pay to get it done. At the same time, the procedure sounds so excruciating. With broken femurs and metal nails piercing into your skin, it can be pretty daunting to say the least. Moving on, a metal device will very slowly start to pull the bones apart and widen the space between the ends of the cut bone, and that's going to be filled with new bones. But the healing process isn't any easier. In fact, the doctor says it's more like training for the marathon because you've got to have the mental discipline to go through with it. Let's learn more about the risks of this procedure. Other than people wanting to aim higher with a few more inches, there are some serious medical conditions that require this kind of surgery. So if someone's got a pretty huge difference in leg length, at least 2 inches, the limb lengthening procedure is a great call. Usually, it's likely recommended in children with growing bones, people with short stature, children with abnormalities in their growth plate, and also people who've faced trauma that resulted in a shortened limb. Adding to that, there are also a bunch of other health conditions that could lead to unequal leg lengths, such as cerebral palsy, poliomyelitis, hip diseases, small or weak muscles, previous injuries, and birth defects. But while the procedure sounds great and all, there are significant risks involved. Like with any other surgery, there will be side effects and surgical risks, such as allergic reactions to anesthesia, bleeding, and even infection in the pin sites. In fact, a 2020 study reported that limb lengthening procedures and outcomes could have some sort of complication, but a majority of patients will likely survive the surgery without any major complications. Having said that, there's definitely a risk that the surgery might be ineffective and that patients may heal in a way where the bones aren't straight, and that seems to be a pretty huge concern for someone who's perfectly healthy but getting the surgery to gain a few inches. Generally, the procedure can be done safely and effectively in children and adults, with the ideal age between the 20s and 60s. Up next, let's dive into the minds of the short men getting their legs broken for 3 inches. Pretty extreme way to gain confidence? Maybe, but is it worth it? Only they can tell us. Some people are super insecure about their height, and procedures like these seem to be the only way out for them. Even though the surgery may end up with a year of relentless pain during healing, people are still getting it done. In fact, orthopedic surgeons who are doing the procedures are giving their patients some pain meds, which seems to raise some questions about medical ethics. Many patients claim that doctors fill you up with enough painkillers to make it bearable, but it brings up the fear of addiction, and it makes sense because chugging a bunch of pain meds isn't the healthiest approach. So out of fear, people stop taking them and then go on to endure the pain as they recover. But why are people going all the way to still get it done despite the pain and risks involved? Because for some, this seems worth the extra 3 inches, and there are numbers to prove it. A 2009 study of Australian men found that men tend to make about $50 less annually for every inch shorter they are than their taller colleagues. So when someone says taller, people seem to have it easier. They might not be wrong. And for people who weren't born with that height, they've got to break their legs to make the world bend for them. Finally, it might be painful, but it's worth the risk for many. Honestly, it isn't the first time we've seen limb lengthening surgeries. Typically, in one way or another, they've been around since the 19th century. In fact, at first, they were used as a treatment to help people with mismatched limb length or so. But as elective surgery, it's got all the hype it needs right now. And while many people around us express a desire to be taller, we can't ignore the steep cost of the surgery, along with the brutality of the procedure itself. Please, let's not forget the excruciating healing process that makes for a hell of a barrier to entry, at least for some. But as long as it helps make someone's life better, that's all that matters, right? That's a wrap for this video. What's your take on the leg lengthening surgery that software engineers from major tech firms are after? Do you think 3 extra inches are worth the 75 grand? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.